What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us. It's the 23rd of the 2nd, the Monday night show with the guests. We have Statistical Approach with us tonight. Cheers for coming back on, pal.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Glad to have you on. We've got James with us again tonight from the Football Manager Whizzkids. As always, cheers, James.
Good evening.
And we have Mr. Happy.
Good evening.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, tonight we have, as you see on the background, we have another FM fan site we are promoting tonight. It is strikeless.com. Really good guy, Guido, who does it. I did an interview with him on our YouTube channel you can check out. Really interesting, especially interesting to see how he got into Football Manager, diving through bargain basements. Really interesting to read, but check out his website. He does some fantastic tactics on there. What's called strikeless.com. There are some striker tactics, but the first one you'll see is 4-2-4-0. Fantastic tactic, really good, so give him a check out. But we will go on to the topics. It is not a tactics talk tonight, so anyone who's excited to hear tactics, turn off now. But we will get into the show if I can get on the correct screen. The first thing I'm going to talk about is something which you never see in Football Manager, which is in the last week, Lionel Messi has been linked with Sampdoria. Possibly it's just the chairman being a bit drunk, Mr. App. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably the case. Don't think there's very much chance of that one happening, do you?
Well, there's stranger things happen in the world. I mean, I can't see it because, like we say, it's Lionel Messi. He's been linked, hasn't he, with Chelsea a lot. There's been rumours of Man City over the last year or two floating around. I think they're the only two clubs I can see affording his wages.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I'm sure this isn't too controversial to suggest. I just don't see him ever leaving Barcelona. I can see him just retiring there at 36, 38 and just never playing for another club, to be honest. Maybe going back to Argentina at a push, but I just think there'll be a new board appointed at Barcelona in the next year or two. I'm sure the next presidential vote's quite soon, and then things will probably settle down from there because I just don't see the motivation for him to leave. I think, if he comes to Chelsea, he can probably only fail. He's never going to hit the heights that he has at Barcelona, even if he's a 30-goal a season man. I think he'll just be settled in Barcelona for the rest of his career, if I'm honest.
Well, I know somebody actually mentioned on our group that they kept saying, I think he's going to end his career in Argentina. I think what a lot of people don't realise, and maybe just haven't clicked on with, is the fact he's not really that loved in Argentina. Because of the fact he obviously went to Spain so early, they see him as more of an outsider playing for the nation. I know they've warmed to him recently a lot more, but they couldn't have hated him anymore. I know a few years ago I watched Argentina playing a friendly in Argentina, and he got booed every time he touched the ball by the home fans, which I just couldn't believe, James. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't seen it, to be honest. Not really seen much, but I think I agree. I can only see him ending up, staying at Barca the rest of his career. I don't think he'll go anywhere else.
Yeah, I think if he stays at Barcelona, Ryan, it's going to be an impressive tally of goals by the end of his career.
Oh, record breaking, no doubt. But I agree with everyone. I think he'll stay at Barcelona, have a fantastic career, maybe become a coach, president. Who knows? Barcelona man through and through.
Now I know I've been shouting just to move on to the second man in the conversation. Normally, when you say Messi, you normally say Ronaldo. Something I just want to pick on that I saw today was I don't know the exact figure, I can't remember, but I think it was close to, he's only 40 goals behind Raul now, was all-time goal scorer for Real Madrid. I don't know if you saw that, Mr. Statistical.
Yeah, very impressive. I remember when he signed for Real Madrid, obviously quite some time ago now, talking to friends, saying that he'll go down as Real's greatest ever player, and I think it's already close to that. I guess Raul's obviously in the debate, Di Stefano, Puskas, but if he stays there for maybe another year or two, one more Champions League, it's just because his goals per game ratio, it's unbelievable, especially in the modern game as well. You know, when you look at some of the great Real Madrid players from the 50s and 60s, football's just so much harder and more competitive now that it's getting to the point where he's going to be head and shoulders above anyone to play for the club, really. It's incredible. I guess what the real shame is, in a way, I guess we're lucky that we've got Messi and Ronaldo, but if there was only one of them, they would be held up in, I guess, such a higher level because they'd be so far ahead of everyone. But now, neither one of them's that far ahead of the nearest rival because they're both so good, which it kind of takes the shine off both of them, but just makes everyone so lucky to get to live in this generation, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, imagine, Ryan, imagine in a few years when you have kids growing up. I mean, I just imagine when my kids are a bit older and they mention the fact that, oh, I wish I saw Messi or I wish I saw Ronaldo, and we can just say, well, we grew up watching them play.
Well, yeah, it's like modern day when you get old people say, oh, I saw Pelé play, I saw Duncan Edwards play. We're the generation that would say, well, we wish we could see them play, but future generations will say that about Messi.
Yeah, I'm just going to
say we have.
Just going quickly down the side. Keza FM said, alright lads, just listening, Keza. And Will Marshall said Messi will never leave, so he's on board with you lads. Just before we go off this, I'm just going to chuck something at you, James. People who hate me, I've had so much abuse for it, and I've said this in the past, but I didn't rate Pelé. I thought he played in an average league for most of his career. I don't know what your opinion on Pelé was, James. Oh, sorry, I was just saying, I never rated Pelé. I don't know what your opinion is. I just thought he played in an average league for most of his career.
I'm one of those that believe if you've never seen a player play, how can you judge them? Doesn't matter what league they play in. We'll say that about Messi. He's only played in one league. Never seen him play. We just read and see videos, so you can't really judge. I don't have a judgment on Pelé or Maradona because everything we see and read is positive.
I don't know, I've read quite a few bad things about Maradona. Just quickly on the side, Guido's come on. Don't you think Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo spur each other on to perform better, like Nadal and Federer? I do. I don't know about yourself, Ryan, but I think it's definitely the case.
Oh, definitely. I always love watching Nadal and Federer trying to better each other, and it's always the same with Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. The fight for the Ballon d'Or is the same every year. Who's going to win it?
Just quickly, I mean, it's really good that people are coming on listening and asking some questions on the side. I'm going to put this to Mr. StatApp. Now, unfortunately, I know he would have liked Shola Amiobi as the answer to this, but obviously he's playing for Nigeria. But who will England's next strikers be for the next internationals?
Well, honestly, I think Harry Kane has to be nailed on to start for England. He's looked unbelievably good. I mentioned this on Twitter a while ago, and a few people thought I was going overboard because obviously it's a small sample. He's only hit form this season, but even from kind of the start of his good form, when he got maybe a few in a row, and then obviously that's continued to a really impressive tally. He does, and I know everyone's saying it, but he looks like the complete package. It's not as though he's scoring worldies every week or tap-ins every week. He seems to be doing everything. He really looks like a top prospect. So if I was England manager, which is I guess what the question is, I would definitely be starting Kane and I guess maybe Sturridge if he's fit, but obviously Rooney's captain, which I guess ties your hands behind your back as the manager, that Rooney has to play. But yeah, for me, Kane has to start for England.
Well, I mean, give it another season or two and Rooney will be playing centre-back most weeks. So, one thing I would put across, Ryan, is obviously if you look at the Premier League goal scorer now, you've got Harry Kane and Charlie Austin up there. Would it be far too left field to put both of them up front?
If you're a manager that goes on stats for goals and you want them up front, why not? But we all know what Roy Hodgson's like. He has his little favourites and he'll probably pick them. But I can see Harry Kane getting in and starting the next games.
I think every manager has favourites, so that's one way to look at it, isn't it? Just looking down I'm looking down the topics we picked for today and trying to pick the next one to lead on from this discussion. And I think talent identification, without relying on scouts, basically, this was Ryan's decision, so I'm going to actually hand over to Mr. Happy. He can explain this one.
Well, yeah, it's just something that I thought we could link with FM. How do you actually pick out your youth prospects rather than looking at what the scouts say or looking at what your assistants say, relying on the star rating, which I never rely, and I always like to judge on the stats. How do people do it in real life, and how do people do it on FM? Well, that's StatApp because we know he's quite famous with Football Manager. How do you do it?
Well, for in Football Manager, quite a few different methods. I did a video on it when the new game came out, but I guess put me on the spot. A few of them off the top of my head. One of the ones that people don't seem to know about and commented on a lot in the video was at the end of every season, once you get a handle on when the regen dates are, you can go into the World tab in the game and go to recent transfers. And if you scroll through, you can see the categories of why players join clubs, and you can see the ones that have come into youth teams. Now, typically, if you've only got a few leagues loaded, if players come into, say, Dutch teams, Italian teams, if you've only got, say, England and Spain loaded, normally, at least maybe 10-15% of those players are pretty good, so it's worth spending an hour or two kind of filtering through those players. That's a really good one. Obviously, international youth teams is very good as well, just to go through and scout all of those players. Generally speaking, though, I think the star rating's become a little bit better this year just because of the, I guess, fog of war, you would refer to it, the changes that have been made in FM15, but generally, it's more just once I can see all of the attributes, making a judgment call from there, looking at the type of attributes I like. Quite often retrain players as well if, I think they could do better in a different position. So, yeah, they're just some of the ways I would do it.
Sorry, I was going to say it is interesting. I remember watching that video, and I never use the option where you go into the world. It's something I know it's there, but I just never. I suppose I kind of like to get the feel of each team, so I would go to the Dutch league, for example, and go through the teams. Even if I don't have the leagues loaded, you can still obviously go and check the teams out. And I do what you do, where I go into the youth teams for the nations. I mean, if people check out my new series on YouTube with Mulder, the first episode you see from the players I've signed, it's pretty obvious the youth team I went in and invaded. But I like to just kind of. I don't have a set group, but I suppose I do. I go to certain nations like Norway, like Belarus, nations like that where you have clubs like Beit Borisov, for example, in Belarus, who produce some of the greatest regions you will ever see. In some of my previous Football Manager saves, I've had players from Belarus which could have been legends for the likes of Spain. But a lot of people look over nations like that as well, so it kind of gives you a bit of pride, doesn't it? No matter where you get a youth player from, if you sign a youth player and they do fantastic. But I try not to listen to my scouts because I've got a player at the minute on one of my saves where the scout thinks he's average, but there's clubs 3 or 4 divisions higher than me who are desperately having a bidding war for this player. So obviously my scout is missing something. So always just rely on yourself, I always think. I don't know about yourself, James. I know you're battling for signings at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, that first option of searching the world part, I didn't even know about until about 2 months ago, to be honest. And the way I also go around the international teams probably once every 6 months or so, and I check them, the youth teams. And there's also certain teams I check every few months also, especially on the regen dates. I like to check Crew. I like to check a club in Uruguay called Defensor Sporting, and I like to check all the clubs in Argentina and Spain, as well as a few other clubs around the world.
I think, StatApp says that the most basic thing which he said during what he was explaining is spend an hour or two looking. Somebody said to me the other day, I can't find anybody, and he posted on our group about 15 minutes later saying how he'd give in looking. And I think some evenings, I'll just spend 2 or 3 hours and I might press continue once or twice to see if, just for the scout report to come back on a player. But apart from that, I just spend hours scrolling through random clubs. But just quickly jumping on the side again, I really appreciate everybody who's listening. And if you think we've moved on from a topic and you still want to ask a question like people have on the side, just throw it in. We will jump back and answer. I'll put this to StatApp. Can you see Austin moving clubs in the next transfer window?
Yeah, Charlie Austin, well, QPR aren't doing too well in the league, are they? I can see him moving back to the Premiership if they get relegated, definitely, yeah. I think that's pretty typical if a player does well and the team gets relegated, moving to a team probably in the bottom half of the league. I'm trying to think of an example. Say West Brom stayed up and QPR went down, something like that. I don't think he'd get a big move. I'm not a huge fan of his. I think he's pretty good. I'd definitely take him at Newcastle, for example. I think he'd be a good squad player, but I don't think he's going to move to a top 8, top 6 club at any point. And I don't really think he's an England player, but yeah, I can definitely see him staying in the Premiership. He's already, him and Danny Ings have been the two standout players this year for kind of lower clubs. Obviously, Harry Kane's grabbed all the headlines for Spurs, but yeah, both of them have done really, really well.
I think that's the joys of football, isn't it? Difference of opinion. I actually think he could do well at a club like Tottenham, him and Harry Kane, because they need another striker. But the next one I'll put to Ryan, this will be interesting, asking an Australian. Who would you pick as England manager if Roy Hodgson was to leave or get sacked?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think in the future, if he can improve as a young manager, Gary Monk.
Really?
I reckon if he can prove himself in the future and get better, he's done wonders at Swansea. I reckon he could be future England.
Well, there's 3 Newcastle fans on this show, excluding yourself, Ryan. There's only one man who's been mentioned in the past as a potential England manager, which is the legend of Alan Pardew. Which is, I am going to say, and I'm going to try my hardest not to swear, is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my life, because that man couldn't organise a freaking tactics board, let alone actually tell players what to do off it. Who would you like to see StatApp? I won't ask James because he's far too Scottish to answer politely.
You see, it's a funny one, the England manager, because when I was growing up, I'm 29 now. When I was growing up, the England job was a really, really big job, and I'm sure this will upset some people, but it just isn't anymore. Roy Hodgson got the job as a kind of middle of the road name, really. Obviously, being Fulham manager, failed at Liverpool, and I just don't see any of the real, top echelons of managers even looking at, some British ones that I would consider. Well, I guess one would be Brendan Rodgers, who's a really good coach, maybe not that great in the transfer market, but there'd just be no incentive for him to take the job on, even if he left Liverpool, I don't think. And then obviously, kind of dream scenarios would be the likes of Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, but again, it would just be laughable to suggest that. So Gary Monk's probably a very realistic option, a young, up-and-coming English manager, or someone like Sam Allardyce, even though I know people would hate the style of football, but when Hodgson leaves, you will really be scraping the barrel. We'll either need to go from someone left field who's foreign, who isn't at a big club, or I guess again an up-and-comer, or someone even more controversial like maybe an Allardyce. So it's a real tricky one. I don't think we'll get a particularly great manager, even though I'm not a Hodgson fan.
I think as you say, it's more of a poison chalice now. I mean, if you go there, you've basically just got to expect to get abuse constantly from the press. I think I would love to see someone like Rodgers, but I just, as you say, I just can't see. There's no reason for him to go. He's not going to go there. And I think a couple of years ago, Jose Mourinho might have considered it, but I think the more and more you hear him talk, more and more he seems to talk about how much he just wants to stay at Chelsea.
Yeah, he's touched on wanting to be the Portugal manager one day, which would make sense, but I guess part of the England thing is we don't have that many good players. Like we were talking about strikers before, and that's one of our stronger positions where we've got quite a few options, but generally speaking, unless things change in the next 4 to 8 years, we're not going to be, close to favourites for any tournament. So, I'm sure Mourinho would jump at the chance if England were second or third favourites for a World Cup or Euros, but that's probably not going to happen. There'd have to be, 5 or 6 players would have to come through and really step up as top-class players, which, right now doesn't look, as though that's going to happen.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's fair point. So I'm just quickly reading down the side. There's loads of people are commenting, which is fantastic. Eddie Tennant, cheers for listening, Polly, said, who do you think will get automatic promotion from the Championship? Who do you think will make the playoffs? I think it's going to... Did I just click that? Whoops. I think it's going to be Bournemouth and Derby are going to go up automatic, and I think Middlesbrough will go through the playoffs. What about yourself, Ryan?
Exactly the same. I was just thinking as you were talking, but you're exactly the same as what I think.
Copy. James?
Yep, exactly the same, and I'll be glad to see Middlesbrough back in the Premier League.
I will be as well. It's an easy 6 points. What about yourself, StatApp?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Middlesbrough in the Premiership. Haven't really got that big of a rivalry against them. Some of my, not immediate, but some of my cousins and so on are Middlesbrough fans, so that would be quite good. Yeah, Bournemouth, obviously Eddie Howe's a good up-and-coming manager. Got a bit of a soft spot for Ipswich. I don't follow the Championship that closely, but off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure they're right in the mix to get automatic promotion as well. So one of those teams. I guess teams like Norwich have just been up, so, you know, Middlesbrough, Bournemouth, Derby, Ipswich, any of those teams would be something a little bit different. Obviously, some of them have been promoted, but probably not for 4 or 5 years, so yeah.
So the comment just jumped right at the top. It's from Dr. Benji, and he's asking, who is your favourite member of the FM League? Now, I'd have to say, just to stay neutral, my favourite member is Second Yellow Card.
Shock.
Do you know that? Honestly, I'm like an FM stalker of Second Yellow Card. I watch his episodes every single night or morning, depending on when I've got time. I don't know if you're following them, StatApp. I know you do so much recording, I doubt you even have time.
Follow what, sorry?
Second Yellow Card in his Pompey series.
Oh, it is so hard to watch people's videos. The ones I watch more are kind of just one-off episodes. When it's a real long playthrough, as you said, it's very hard to kind of have a full-time job, record videos, and, you know, I try my best, but it is hard, yeah.
And what I would say then is I just released a scenario tonight. It's a one-off episode, so you can check that out.
Yeah, no, well, what is it?
It's I can plug it. It's what I've done is I've put Bradford in the Premier League because they are the giant killers of this season. Yeah. And I recorded one season with them as their reputation is now to see if they could do giant killing every week. Then I redid it, but I put their reputation to a mid-table Premier League reputation to also test, as people say, oh, I come up against this team and just because it's Man United they beat me. So basically, I wanted to see if the reputation affects the results in Football Manager. So once again, the exact same squad, but a higher reputation to see how they did, and again, if they could do giant killing every week.
Very good. I was going to ask how it ended up, but I guess you want people to watch the video to find out.
Yeah, you have to check it out. It is extremely interesting, the second half of it, so it's definitely worth checking out. It's only 9 minutes long, so it won't take people too long to watch it. Quickly jump down the side. Vettler Gunnarsson, fantastic name, Vettler. My oldest boy's called that. Tips for FM15: how to make your team more consistent. Well, I suppose we'd link it to the likes of Chelsea in real life. Be solid. If your team's solid, you're going to be consistent. If your team's not solid, they're not going to be. Check out the average positions. Check out your passing. Check out the creating a tactic post on the website, which got Fansite Friday. That will show you how to put a solid tactic together. You'll see it there. But yeah, just be solid, basically. You can't be consistent if your team's all over the place. But the next one is, again, it's from Vettel, and it says, future of Louis van Gaal if Man United don't get the Champions League. James, I don't know. I mean, are Man United going to turn into a sacking club? They did it with Moyes.
Not anymore. I think they've found a manager that they want to progress with, and I think if they don't make it, I think they're still going to stick with them for the long term. I
know somebody posted on our Facebook group. It did actually make me laugh. Now I'm sorry to Man United fans, but like Ryan, for example, they posted saying they are 5 points better off this season compared to last season. Now Ryan, you can answer this. I should bloody hope so. The amount of money they spend.
Well,
it's a freaking expensive 5 points.
It is, and we should be further ahead. The gameplay should be better, but we get top 4, I'll be happy. If we don't, then Van Gaal should still stay, and he can build whatever he's building in the future.
Fantastic. Sorry, I'm just saying. Dr. Benji calls me a mug. Then he asks when he's going to be next on. Fantastic. He was asking StatApp who his favourite member of the FM League was. Probably himself, but who do you like apart from yourself, StatApp?
Oh, anyone that isn't called Dr. Benji.
Oh, yeah, it's, poor lad.
But no, in fairness, Dr. Benji would be near the top of the list after he gave me an easy 3 points in my last game with him, so he's on my Christmas card list, that's for sure.
he's near the top. He's in the top 8.
Yeah, he's in the top 8. That's
There you go. Fantastic. I will say that I absolutely love watching the extra time, etc. on a Saturday and stuff. I don't manage to catch all the matches, but I do watch the ones I can, and I definitely watch the weekend show as well.
Ah, that's good.
So quickly jump down the side. There's more people. It's fantastic. Do you know, we put a list of topics together, which obviously we send to everybody. And I don't even think we're going to get through most of them because of the amount of people asking questions, which is fantastic. Kez FM, he says, sorry for another question. What's your thoughts on Madic's red card and the tackle on him? Of course, I think the red card was right due to violent conduct, but what's your thought on the tackle? Well, he can't react how he did in modern football. I mean, if you think the likes of Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, etc., did never play if people used to get a red card for pushing. The way he reacted isn't acceptable anymore. I mean, in my opinion, it should have just got on with it. I mean, the tackle was bad, but it was almost a follow-through tackle where he obviously didn't mean it. I mean, let's be honest, he was trying to basically take Matic out by just taking the ball and then going through him, not to actually connect with his leg how he did. Now people are going crazy about the tackle, but what they need to remember is it's not basketball. There's going to be contact, so at times mistakes are going to happen. So I think people do need to calm down a little bit on the way they've been reacting. I don't know what your opinion is, James.
Sorry?
Brilliant.
I was in a world of my own there.
Matic tackle and the reaction, etc. What's your opinion on it?
The tackle was a horror tackle, and it was right, could have broke his leg. And as the law states, Matic has got to get sent off for his reaction, but it couldn't have been that bad if he got up and ran like that straight away.
Ryan, sorry, I'm trying to read and ask questions. I'm not good at this. Multitasking.
I'm 50-50. I'm with you on Paul, where I don't think he meant the tackle, but he could have broke his leg, and that's a red card. Matic is also a red card for violent conduct.
Yeah. What about yourself, Mr. App?
Yeah, about the same. I think both probably red cards. In terms of the reaction, I guess my natural instincts to say it's a little bit over the top and you don't want to see players get sent off, but they know the rules and you should really be able to control yourself. Everyone loses the cool and the adrenaline's flowing, and it was a bad tackle. It's going to annoy anybody, but yeah, just a little bit stupid from him really, more than anything.
Yeah, I think, like you say, everyone loses the cool. Just quickly, Vettel there saying, how do you think Odegaard will do at Real Madrid? P.S. I am Norwegian. I'm not Norwegian, but I live in Norway. I think he's going to be fantastic. There's been obviously clips coming out of him on VG, etc., which no doubt you've seen. The clip I watched on VG.no showing him playing for Castilla, looks like he's settling well, which is a good sign. I think he's going to be a fantastic talent. I mean, you'll be the same as me. You've seen a lot more of him than more people around the world, and he's a fantastic player. So a lot of people are saying he's overhyped, he's not going to make it. If they watch a lot of actual match highlights instead of just the clips put together on YouTube, but actually matches from the Norwegian League, which are online, you can watch full games. At the age of 15, he was completely a class above everybody. So he's definitely made it. It just depends how high he's going to go, but I do think he is actually going to be Real Madrid level.
He scored his first goal recently as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the goal wasn't fantastic, but his assist playing stuff at the minute has been amazing. Smith said there, Barnes knew exactly what he was doing. It's the joys of football, isn't it? It's something we're not going to know. Everyone has a difference of opinion. Some people think he meant it, some people think he doesn't. Right, next question to StatApp. Do you think the culture of overhyping players in England before they developed... Oh, I can hear myself talking back.
Sorry, what was the question?
Do you think there's a culture of overhyping players in England before they developed? Heard a few commentators, pundits saying Harry Kane is a different class when he's still got a lot of developing to do.
Yeah, there probably is a culture of that. I guess Harry Kane's, it's hard to point at him as an example too much because we don't know what's going to happen. If in a year's time, he's, this time next year, he scored 7 league goals at that point in the season, then probably that's a great example. But at this stage, it's hard to highlight Harry Kane. Maybe people like, say, Jack Rodwell, even though he's been injured quite a lot, he was going to be the next big thing. Barkley, now he's obviously still very young and again has been injured but hasn't really kicked on. And probably the prime example is Jack Wilshere. He was, going to be the next Paul Gascoigne, and that just, he hasn't really kicked on from breaking into the Arsenal team. So there definitely is a culture. I don't even think that's much of a debate. We do it regularly. Don't think there's much you can do to stop it. But then I guess on the other hand, we sometimes underplay or undersell players when they do really well. It almost depends what their progression is. If they come on the scene at 17, 18, the class is the next big thing. And if someone takes a few years to develop, I guess Daniel Sturridge is a good example. He developed a little bit later, and probably in other European countries is seen as a real top striker, whereas in England he might not get as much hype as some other players. Even Lampard from a few years ago took him a while to be classed as a top class player because he wasn't amazing until maybe 23, 24.
Yeah, no, that's it is true. I think the thing is as well with Harry Kane, though, he's not a spring chicken anymore. Is he 21, 22?
Yeah, about 21.
So he's not 17 or 18. I think he's a lot closer to his full potential than obviously people a bit younger than him. KSFM said, StatApp, if you're a Newcastle fan. Hey, me, James, and StatApp are Newcastle fans on here. Who would you like as the next manager?
Oh, well, it's so hard to even give an opinion on it because no matter who I want as the next manager, it's probably not going to happen. You talked about Pardew earlier. I was never a big supporter of Pardew in the sense of I thought he was a fantastic manager. I was always saying to friends and family that it's almost better the devil you know, whereas I thought Pardew was a run-of-the-mill kind of bottom half Premiership standard manager and was very fearful of what the board would do if they ever sacked him. Now, obviously he didn't get sacked, he left of his own accord, and then that's kind of been proven right because we've got someone in with no or very little experience, certainly at Premiership level, and things are not going well. So, we've been linked with lots of managers in the papers. Michael Laudrup was talked about a while ago, a couple of guys from France, but I honestly think in the summer it'll just be the cheapest possible option, if I'm honest, which is, it kind of pains me to say it, but there's no way we're going to go out and make a big splash and get De Boer or someone like that. That would be a dream scenario, and I just don't see it. He'll go to a club who will pay him more and back him more, I guess, more importantly.
Yeah, I think I would like to see De Boer in. I've been, since he started getting linked, I've watched a few Ajax games on TV when they've been on, and they don't play the football you remember Ajax for playing, but they still look decent. So I would like to see him come in, but there's no way we're going to pay for him to come in. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Carver doesn't get the job in the summer just to save some money. That's the issue at the minute. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will always praise Mike Ashley for how financially secure Newcastle is. But on the other hand, as a Newcastle fan, it drives you crazy at some of the cost-cutting methods that happen at the club.
No, that's fair, yeah. I think it's fair enough to praise him for the way the club's been run, because we have been very steady compared to the last regime and, kind of what I knew growing up, kind of a boom or bust mentality. But,
yeah, exactly.
The height of our ambitions are to be, essentially not getting relegated every year, which is, a real shame. I feel other clubs, if they'd finished fifth under Pardew a few years ago, we would have, not went out and spent £100 million, but went out and really strengthened the squad. I think a lot of other clubs wouldn't have sold Kabay, and just little things along the way. And, it's hard to complain because you're staying in the Premiership every year, but, is that the sum of your ambitions? It's very hard for, fans of our age when you've seen Newcastle competing for titles and, been in with a shot of winning the FA Cup a lot of times, and now we don't even try in the Cups and are a million miles away from competing at the top of the table. So you've got to be realistic, but I think it is hard to stomach some of the ongoing things at the club.
Yeah, I think, James, I don't know what you think, but I assume you just get into the age gap, do you, James, where you remember the likes of where we had the Shepherd and John Hall situation where the finances, we were really struggling. That's the only... When we don't sign a player or we sell a player for big money and keep the money, I'm trying to stay on the positive side of thinking, at least we're not in that situation at the minute.
Yeah, well, that's what you do have to give Mike Ashley a certain bit of praise, because he has put us in a very stable position. But as long as we're staying in the Premier League and he's getting the money rolling in, that's all he is caring about. As long as we get the money coming in. As for the manager situation, there's a big difference between who I want and who I think we could get.
Exactly.
My number one choice would be Andre Villas-Boas. I'd really like him, and I'd like Frank de Boer as well. Well, not as well, but of course.
Yeah, get them all in.
But who I think would be a good choice, I'd like Gary Monk or Eddie Howe. The only negative I can say about them two is I think, in particular Howe, they'd be yes men as well. They'd just go along with it and agree because they're quite inexperienced in the manager game.
Yeah. Villas-Boas could be an interesting shout.
We need somebody bigger with a reputation and that can say to the board, this is what I want and this is what you got to get me.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. Smith 89123. Well, that's a mouthful, Paul. He says Newcastle should go for Rudy Garcia or De Boer. Ashley's not. The issue is who the fans will scream for. Ashley will purposely not sign. I'm sure that's how it works. KSFM says, who can you see as the next England keeper after Joe Hart? That is a long way away. I'm genuinely going to say no idea, because when Joe Hart gets to the stage of retiring, I've got a feeling there's going to be a whole new. Yeah, exactly, Ryan. So I don't think none of us will answer that, Paul, at the minute. StatApp League Cup final Sunday prediction.
Oh, it's you've got to go with Chelsea, I think, haven't you?
Is Madic suspended for it, or because they've appealed, is it going to go past that? I'm not sure.
If it gets upheld, I think he is suspended.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think he'll play. I think that's right. Yeah, if I'm honest, I'd like to see Spurs win. I don't mind Spurs. Pochettino's done a really good job with them this year. I was talking to someone on Twitter the other day. I don't think they'll do a great deal this year, even if they won the League Cup. I can't see them finishing in the top four, maybe just outside of it. But I think there's real strong signs there with Spurs that they can do something long term. Probably not win the league, but Pochettino's looked really good. I like the high pressing game that they deploy, and obviously they've got some good players. Eriksen and Payne have been two of the better players in the league this year. So yeah, if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be really, really confident moving forward, more so than I have been in a long time, really.
Yeah, I think I do like the play. I just think they've got too big of a squad. I don't know about yourself, James, working on the transfer databases. When you go into Tottenham's squad, you must spend 20 minutes scrolling down.
Yeah, I mean, they done a lot of business, what was it, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when they spent 100 million in the transfer window, well, from the Bale transfer, and they've not really done anything since that window, to be honest, not much.
I don't think they could. I think they maxed out. There's no seats left in the dressing room.
Could you not say the same about Chelsea as well?
Yeah, but they at least loan them all out. Tottenham just keep them all hanging around the changing rooms, just getting the tea, washing the kits. They must be doing something because they have about 40 players. It's a giant squad. I wouldn't mind them sending a couple of us. Vettel said, "What do you guys think of Cabella?" He's a hit and miss player. I think when he's on his day, he's fantastic, and I do think he just needs time to settle. He's come to a league where in France he maybe had them extra couple of seconds on the ball, where now as soon as he gets the ball, the opposition have been told to hit him hard, basically, and it is obvious that's what's being told. And fair play, that's what you're gonna say when a skillful player comes into the league. As an opposition player, you want to make sure you leave your mark on him, so they know they're not going to get an easy day. And I just think it's taken time to adjust to that happening. I don't know about yourself, Mr. App.
Yeah, I agree. Certainly early days in the season. Obviously, I've got a season ticket, so I see every home game, and I think in terms of the physicality of players, you get a much better idea when you see a game live. And early in the season, you got really bullied, either starting games or coming off the bench, looked very lightweight. He's definitely adapted and had some good performances since then. He's been hit and miss, even with good performances mixed in there since he's kind of turned the corner with us. But for me, I think one of the big problems is, and I don't think we'll do this, but I think if you played him as a number 10, he'd get a lot more joy floating in between the lines. I think when we push him out wide, he's done some great things out wide, created chances, wreaked havoc at times when he's got on the ball, but I think he's a natural number 10, and the problem is that Perez has had a really good year and I'm very impressed with him. Cisse has come off the bench a lot, but I think if we had someone who's a bit more of a physical presence than Perez and could play Cabella off them, that would be kind of the dream scenario for Cabella, but maybe not for Newcastle as a team in general, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I would like to see him as number 10. I don't know about yourself, James, but when you see Cabella play, and when you see him on Football Manager, when you look at him, he just looks like a number 10, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's ideally we would like to play him, but as said, we need somebody with more presence up front if he's going to play that role. But he has done all right recently, and he does okay when he's wide. He's recently won the Player of the Month, the Fans Player of the Month, but he's got nothing on him. He needs a bit more meat on him and a bit more body to compete in this league. As you say, hit and miss so far this season, but with Perez playing the way he has been, he's kind of outshining him in the team at the moment.
Yeah, maybe he can borrow some of the shoulder from Orbitan, because that guy's like a box. He could lend some of his muscle to Cabella. What a waste of space that guy is. He had a couple of good games earlier on in the season. I don't know about yourself, Stad, I've watched him live, but Orbitan just makes me hit my head off the wall when I'm watching the games.
Yeah, I don't know. Before he got that bad injury, he missed about a month or so. He looked quite good. He's definitely got tons of talent, which is the frustrating thing. He can cross the ball really well, every now and again. So he's not one of these players who can just never looks capable. He definitely looks capable at times, which adds to the frustration a bit. I think going back to Cabella though, in terms of him kind of bulking up a bit, I think these are kind of really high-level examples, but when you look at, say, Iniesta or Sterling, they're probably even smaller than Cabella and are really good at keeping a hold of the ball. I think it's more about body control and positioning, and he's probably never had this type of physical challenge playing in France, so it's more just adapting to it, and he showed examples of that, but maybe a full summer, and so we can reassess the season and maybe work on that a bit more, know what to expect next year. It's small players can be absolutely fine, low centre of gravity protecting the ball. I think it's just more, as I say, knowing what to expect, that he is just going to be put under physical pressure week in, week out, because that's clearly a weakness in his game that people will exploit, and you don't need much talent to do that to somebody. You can just kind of put your weight into them and try and dominate them that way, and that's what's happened a lot, to be fair.
Yeah. Just looking down the sides again, a couple topics out the window tonight. It's good though just to go off the cuff sometimes, just get random questions in. The Great Nook. Now, this is type of question. I'm not going to lie. I'm not the biggest fan of answering because it is literally just personal opinion. So I'm just going to ask Ryan on this one, just because it's funny to watch him say. Top 3 strikers in the Premier League if you don't count Costa and Aguero.
Ooh. I'll let the other 3 answer. I'm going to have a think about that.
You can't do that. I'm only asking you. I'm not putting it to the others.
Well, I'm going to think. Come back to me.
Okay. Like Callum Hopkins has said, have you heard much about how Championship clubs like Charlton and Blackpool are being run? Are Blackpool being run? I just thought they were just being exploited.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, really sad times for Blackpool, but all I've heard, and this is all I've heard, it might be totally wrong, but all I've heard is the chairman's basically just taking money out and not putting anything in, basically. I don't know if you've heard any more, James.
Well, it's bad when Niall Ranger doesn't want to turn up and play for you.
Another waste of space, isn't it? What about yourself, Mr. App? Have you heard much about Charlton?
No, not really. As I was saying before, I don't watch or keep up with the Championship probably as much as I used to, but I agree with the sentiments about Blackpool. I think, it is pretty sad when you read the stuff. Who's the chairman? Carl Oyston? I think that's him.
Unless he's left.
Yeah, well, that's why I double check, because it does make you think, how is he still in charge of the football club when stuff like this is going on? It's kind of an interesting, I guess, moral debate when you see things like this happening with football clubs, because you think they are more than businesses. the way how attached I feel to Newcastle, it's more than if your local shop goes out of business. You think, oh, well, that's sad. They've been in business 50 years. With a football club, you think, well, my granddad and my great granddad went to those games.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to treat a club with this type of disregard. It is quite heartbreaking at times. And I've got no affinity to Blackpool whatsoever. I just know there'll be people my age who have got, as I say, granddads and great granddads who went to games. It's not really on, is it?
No, especially when you think of the money they'd have got from the Premier League only a couple of years ago. But just quickly, before I forget, I almost forgot about this. If anyone lives near Shepherd's Bush and can let us know of a really nice posh restaurant which doesn't sell pizza or kebabs, and they do takeaway, but they are posh, i.e. you get a glass of wine with your meal, comment in the side. There you go, I almost forgot. Oh yeah, it has to be delivered on a silver tray as well. I had a beautiful pizza tonight, by the way. It was so cool. I actually thought of you when I was eating it.
Do you want to know what I had for tea tonight?
It better not been kebab.
No. We had lamb cutlets and we had roasted new potatoes with rosemary and thyme. It was beautiful, mate.
James will love that. He's a high-end chef. He tries. I've seen your pictures, mate. Honestly, they're quite impressive. Right, question on this. I'll put this to James first. You said that Spurs maxed out on okayish players for their squad. Do you think that Newcastle have too many? I wish we had too many players. Too many lesser players on the books. I don't know which book you've been seeing because Newcastle's squad is bare. James?
I'm not sure if that question actually means is the squad too thin, does it?
I don't know. I think he's saying, do we not have too many lesser? Yeah. Do we not? Does he not think we have too many poor players on the books? Well, we definitely have poor players on the books.
Well, definitely. But if he's talking about thin squads, then yes, we have a very thin squad. We have some decent youngsters coming through, but every window, as Newcastle fans, we always fear that players are going to be sold, and if we bring players in, it usually means selling. So it's not very often we bring in a load of players to bulk the squad up. It's just bringing them in to sell other ones.
I just fear that in the summer Mike Williamson might leave. I mean, what will we do then, StatApp?
Yeah, I always remember this about Mike Williamson. A friend of mine once referred to him as a very talented giraffe.
I think that's a bit offensive to the giraffe.
Yeah, it always sticks with me, that one. To be fair, though, what Mike Williamson, I think he's a good example of it shows even at Premiership level, you can just be absolutely outstanding at one thing and make a career out of it because he's brilliant in the air at clearing balls and literally woeful at basically everything else, but is a Premiership centre-back. And I think even if we sold him, he'd probably play at the top end of the Championship at worst case scenario, but he's probably not good enough for us. But in regards to like an assessment of our squad, what frustrates me is, and I know this is real life, it's not Football Manager, you could go into our squad and spend maybe 20-25 million and really make a huge impact, and we'll probably spend that this summer, but we'll sell 2 or 3 as well, and we'll just, as we touched on before, try and keep our heads above water, so to speak. It's, we've got the foundations of a really good team, I feel. We're probably 3 or 4 positions away, maybe a bit of cover from being a team that could, be a top 8, maybe even just outside of that group fighting for the top 4, really. Maybe, say, 6-10 points behind that type of group, a real, maybe have a season like what West Ham are having. That's what we should be aiming for, whereas I just don't think that'll happen next year. I think we'll be in a similar boat to what we are this year, just with a few different faces in and a few leaving.
Well, I think sorry, James, go on.
I was going to say, I think the problem is, yes, we might get 2 or 3 in, but we're going to sell our biggest and best player. At the moment, Moussa Sissoko is, for me, he's almost a certainty to be gone, and I think he'll be playing in the Champions League next season, or definitely in Europe. But for us, what are we going to do? Bring in 3 or 4 average players and then sell our best player, and how do we feel then? We just, as Newcastle, we know our big players get sold, like Andy Carroll, deadline day, Johan Kabay, Debuchy. We get a good player, we make him better, we sell him for profit. Sadly, it's what we do at the moment.
I think, I think Sissoko's going to go. Like I think if he stays, really impressive loyalty. I think Anita's going to go because I think he's just frustrated at the club at the minute. Which, I'm not going to say it's. The mistake he did was shocking, but I don't mind him, to be honest. I've seen worse. I think Tiote is worse than Anita.
I think Media Beach should be starting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm really pleased this guy's getting more chances, but I'd actually like to see him play more, and I think he might step up next season. But do you know what? I can't call it. We'll definitely, probably more than likely do a Newcastle special over the summer, just because there's so many of us in this close group, like StatApp, James, and then we've got Jake, who's one of the admins on the group. There's so many of us in Newcastle fans, just coincidentally, who've all come together. So we could talk for quite a while about Newcastle, and we'd end up crying near the end of it. So you can tune in for a depressing special during the summer when StatApp talks about buying another season ticket. How much it broke his heart at the thought of spending the money to watch us lose.
I've already had my letter. I signed up 3 years ago for the 10-year price freeze, so just pay one price for the next decade. And I've already had a letter confirming next year, so I'm locked in for the long haul, lad.
That's it. He's forced to go. He'll be sat next to the true Geordie, banging his head against the seat.
Yeah.
I'm just quickly look downside. We have run over, but I'll answer the questions on the side first. Right, go to you first, Ryan. Your prediction on the Champions League final.
If the draws turn out rightly, and I can't remember the draws, I'd love to see Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in the finals, but I'm not sure that can happen.
I think Real Madrid are going to win it because they're not playing the best at the minute and still putting results together. So I think when they actually kick in, it's going to be impressive. What about yourself, Stutter?
I'd like to see Bayern win it, just so Guardiola can win a Champions League with another club. He's definitely my favourite manager in world football. I think they've got a good chance. They're not playing particularly well right now. But yeah, just the usual contenders, Real, Barca, and yeah, Bayern, probably the top three. It's not a little bit boring, but it seems to be the usual suspects every year. It's been a little while since we've had a shock winner. Obviously, Liverpool a few years ago, Porto. But yeah, that would be nice. But the way football's changed, I just don't see it, really.
What about yourself, James?
I think Chelsea's going to win it.
I'd love to see that.
Anybody but Barca. I don't like Barca.
Get them told. And the last question, which is going to be fantastic because I'm crap at remembering names. I don't even remember the names after bloody people I talk to, which is depressing. Ryan, I think your name is. What's your thoughts on Halivit? Really? Did you have to do this? The last thing of the whole show, and I can't pronounce the name.
He means Alan Halilovic.
There you go. You pronounced it.
Pre-Martin Odegaard wonder kid.
Oh, is that the one at Barcelona, the Croatian guy?
Yeah. The one that everyone's forgotten about now.
Well, I thought his name was spelled different to that. I've literally only seen one video of him, so I can't comment. He looks skillful. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've not seen much of him.
StatApp, have you seen much on him?
Literally, the only insight I can offer is he looks about 5 years old. That's literally it. And he's quite good on Football Manager.
Yeah. What about yourself, James? Brilliant. Good job. I know, go on, pal. You've just come back. Go on.
I've not seen too much of him, but I haven't heard much of him either, so hopefully Odegaard doesn't turn the same, and this time in a year we won't even be talking about him.
Right, well, now I'm just going to quickly answer one question. I can answer that myself. Best conference team to start with, Wrexham. And now, one word answers from all of you to end the show. Favourite team, not Newcastle. So, James?
It's 2 words, Real Madrid.
Ryan?
Man United.
you got out of that one. StatApp?
Barcelona.
Well, you two can have a nice war later then. And I'll go with Egerson. So, yep, Google them. Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, StatApp.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been awesome.
Only 10 minutes over, which isn't bad. And we will see you all on Thursday night for the FM show, which we have Chris Darwin, the author of Johnny Cooper Football Manager, and we have completely Chaz FM from YouTube. So cheers for coming on, lads, and we will see you on Thursday.
Cheers.